Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Chapter 1 Read Aloud. For the month of February, on our first chapter Fridays, I'm going to be reading books by African American authors, and today we are going to start with the book Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. After her mother dies in an accident, 16-year-old Bree Matthews wants nothing to do with her family memories or childhood home. A residential program for bright high schoolers at UNC Chapel Hill seems like the perfect escape until Bree witnesses a magical attack after her very first night on campus. A flying demon feeding on human energies, a secret society of so-called Legendborn students that hunt the creatures down, and a mysterious teenage mage who calls himself a Merlin and who attempts and fails to wipe Bree's memory of everything she saw. The mage's failure unlocks Bree's own unique magic and a buried memory with a hidden connection. The night her mother died, another Merlin was at the hospital. Now that Bree knows there's more to her mother's death than what's on the police report, she'll do whatever it takes to find out the truth, even if that means infiltrating the Legendborn as one of their initiates. She recruits Nick, a self-exiled Legendborn with his own grudge against the group, and the reluctant partnership pulls them deeper into the society's secrets and closer to each other. But when the Legendborn reveal themselves as the descendants of King Arthur's knights and explain that a magical war is coming, Bree has to decide how far she'll go for the truth and whether she should use her magic to take the society down or join the fight. So that's a quick summary of the book itself. This is considered a YA or a young adult book, so just that warning before you read it. But here is the prologue of Legendborn. The police officer's body goes blurry, then sharpens again. I don't stare at him directly. I can't really focus on one thing in this room, but when I do, his face shimmers. His badge, the rectangular nameplate, his tie clip, all the little metal details on his chest ripple and shine like loose silver change at the bottom of a fountain. Nothing about him appears solid. Nothing about him feels real. I don't think about that, though. I can't. Besides, everything looks otherworldly when you've been crying for 3 hours straight. The police officer and nurse brought me and my father into a tiny mint green room. Now they sit on the side of the table. They say they are explaining the situation to us. These people don't feel real, but neither does this situation, they keep explaining. I don't cry for my mother's death, or for myself. I cry because these strangers in the hospital, the nurse, the doctor, the police officer, don't know my mother, and yet they were closest with her when she died. And when your people die, you have to listen to strangers speak your nightmare into existence. We found her on Route 70 around 8, the police officer says. The air conditioner kicks on. The sharp scents of hospital-grade hand soap and floor cleaner blow across our faces. I listen to these people I don't know use the past tense about my mother, the person who brought me into this world and created my present. They are past tensing my heart, my whole being, bleeding, torn heart right in front of me. It is a violation. These uniformed strangers carve me open with their new words, but they are just doing their job, and I can't scream at people who are just doing their jobs, can I? I want to. My father sits in a vinyl padded chair. It creaks when he leans forward to read paragraphs of fine print on pieces of paper. Where did this paperwork come from? Who has paperwork on hand for my mother's death? Why are they ready when I'm not ready? My father asks questions, signs his name, blinks, breathes, nods. I wonder how he is functioning. My mother's life has stopped. Shouldn't everything and everyone stop living too? She was crushed inside her family sedan, body half crumpled under the dashboard after a hit and run. She was alone until some nice, probably frightened Good Samaritan saw her overturned car on the side of the road. Blood-red twine connects the final words I said to my mother, last night in anger, to another night in February, a night when my best friend Alice and I, sitting together in the basement of her parents' split-level home, decided UNC Chapel Hill's early college program was our dream. Bright high school students can earn college credit at Carolina over the course of 2 years, experience life in the dorms, and become independent. At least that's what the brochure said. For Alice and me, early college was 2 minority girls' ticket out of a small town in rural North Carolina. For us, early college meant bigger ideas and classrooms and adventure. We filled out our applications together, marched right into the Bentonville post office after school together, dropped the envelopes in the chute together. If we could get into EC, we could leave Bentonville High and move to a university dorm 4 hours away from home and away from parents who held us on so tight that sometimes we couldn't breathe. I decided before I was born, a decade before I was born, my mother was an undergraduate at Carolina, a burgeoning scientist. I'd heard the stories for years, seen the framed photos of elaborate chemistry experiments, beakers and glass pipettes, protective goggles resting across her high cheekbones. It was her fault, really, for planting the idea in my mind. That's what I told myself anyway. Our letters came yesterday. Alice's parents knew she was applying. They beamed like they were the ones who had been accepted. I knew it wouldn't go that way for me. I'd applied behind my mother's back, certain that once I got in, once I had that letter, she'd let go of her need to keep me close. I handed her the letter on blue and white Carolina stationery, grinned like it was a trophy. I'd never seen her so angry. My brain doesn't accept where my body is sitting. It catalogs the last 36 hours in an attempt to find the how of this hospital room. Last night she roared about trust and safety and not rushing to grow up. I'd screamed about unfairness, about what I'd earned, and how I needed to get away from dirt roads. This morning, I was still fuming when I woke up. In bed, I made a silent declaration to not speak to her all day. That declaration had felt good. Today, a nothing normal Tuesday, except that for me, it carried the subordinate undercurrent of, we'll talk later. Tonight, she drove away from work at the end of the day. Then, a car. Now, this pale green room and a disinfectant smell that burns when I inhale. Forever. We'll talk later is not the same as we'll never talk again. The twine from February closes tight around me, like I will never take another breath. But somehow the police officer is still talking, shimmering and shining. The air around him looks alive, like he is drenched in magic. But when your entire world is shattering, a little bit of magic is nothing. Ta-da! That is the prologue of Legendborn. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you get a chance to read it and look for more books by African American authors as we celebrate Black History Month here on Chapter 1 Read Aloud.